Welcome in, everyone. Our Your Refugees podcast. Ted here, Jon here to bring you through another scintillating week for at least one team. I think at least one of the local teams had a great week well, not a great week of soccer, but a more exciting week of soccer. We'll say that much than one of the other teams. Jon, we look very small on the live stream. Hopefully there is a fix coming for that.
I think we're already fixed for my screen. We're normal. We're normal on my screen.
Maybe it's just me then. I look like two little small boxes right here. Anyway, Jon, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend? Hope it was good.
I feel like I'm not in a small box right now. I feel very good. I feel like I had an opportunity to really dig deep in these games, which I don't typically do. So happy for that. Of course, I chose to do that for this DC United game, which is I would say there are other games in which there's a little bit more meat on the bone to be chewing than this one, but it's all right. And then the weather, man, this weekend. Good Lord. I don't know if it was in Richmond that way, but it was very nice. It was shorts weather for sure. I enjoyed it a lot. What about you?
Yeah, man. I was out at 8 a.m. I was every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, taking time off work to go run around and referee soccer games for a little extra money, and also, because I do enjoy it.
Love of the game.
Yeah, for the love of the gaming. Got to be the only person at the Richmond Kickers game who was maybe like, maybe that was a red card. I don't know. I couldn't really tell if that was valid conduct or not. Everybody else wanted me to be like, oh, that was a terrible call. And I was like, no, sorry.
They should know better. They should know better than to ask that from you.
They were asking explanations for what I saw and what I saw happen, and all the natures in which of the loss of the game. Which if you are the NYCFC admin, over their social media admin, maybe go read the considerations for Dogzo before you spout about how you can't believe that's not a red card. That's some embarrassing stuff coming from the NYCFC admin right now. I saw that on my Twitter. I'm like, it's the exact scenario. You remember Kingsbury in the I think the first game against the Spirit, who got sent off for denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, and then they rescinded it. Yes. Literally very similar situation, exactly the same situation. Go read the considerations. There's a lot of considerations. The laws do not care about your feelings. Let me just say that much. Anyway,
tell them.
Back onto the game. We got some soccer to talk about. One team, we had two teams in Atlanta play a game where they were certainly kicking a ball around. Whether it was actual soccer is in the eye of the beholder, I think, in most senses. But and we have another team in the Spirit who definitely played a game of soccer, a little sloppier than what we're used to. But hey, there still was a lot to talk about. Should we just dive into it? Should we talk DC first? Should we eat our vegetables? I guess we could say for this first game.
Let us eat our vegetables. I think most people are coming to us for their vegetables and their fiber, which would be talking about a 0-0 draw by DC United. Seriously, the first thing I heard when I turned the game on was us being called a suddenly tough out. So suddenly this is a team you don't want to be facing. And, from a goals against perspective, it's not untrue.
Let's be clear. This was a matchup against a roster. I believe I saw the number. I was curious what the number was. $43 million on the opposite side of the field, with obviously DC United not spending anywhere close to that amount of money.
That's not us. In case you were curious, if you heard that number and didn't know which team he was talking about, it was not DC United.
It was not DC United, but Lock de Lock. All these players that were supposed to be big time signings for Atlanta. And they looked absolutely just toothless. I believe the XG was somewhere like 0.2. So like from a defensive performance perspective, absolutely stout. Kai Rawls, big game. Yep. Lucas Bartlett, big game. Matti Peltola, big game. Brendan Servania, I'll give him props. Had a big game. Almost
won the game in the 87th minute.
Yeah, both him and Caden Clark almost with a banger. Mm-hmm. Defensively, very, very stout. Offensively, not a fun watch.
What is the opposite of stout? That is potentially what we offensively we were. Anemic, I guess, is the one the phrase you usually use for that kind of attack.
Yeah,
the problem isn't changing. What it is not changing, regardless of the opponent, regardless of the lineup, really. And so anybody who has eyes who watches this team is like, boy, this team isn't generating enough chances. It just seems that that's the case. Well, Renée Wilder has also watched these games apparently and agrees with you and says, we are not in a position to score goals right now. Essentially, I don't have the exact quote. We can certainly find it. But essentially it was saying, oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, we can't right now. So we're trying to do what we can do right now, which is to play really well defensively. And if we score on a breakaway or if we score on a set piece and we win 1-0, great. We'd like that too.
Yeah, it really does feel like, I mean, this is kind of what you get, if we think about, the last season, with Troy. Troy's a younger coach. Troy is trying to make his name. He's trying to break into, being a manager. He's trying to show that he can do it. And so I think he's maybe a little more predisposed to take some risks, to try to push his team a little bit, to press a little bit, play the style that they played. And, it halfway worked in 2024. They got close to the playoffs. And then the wheels completely came off again, in 2025. You have Renée Wilder, who's been around the block a few times. This job could completely flame out on him, and he would probably still have some offers out there, some ability to stay within the game. So he's like, no, I've been around.
Kluge will call him.
I've watched enough soccer in this league. I know this team is not good enough. I know I need more players. And right now I am trying to reverse the culture a little bit. And that starts on the defensive line. You saw it with the signings. Sean Nealis coming in, Hefti coming in, I think has been a guy I didn't mention, who again, I thought, another very strong performance from him. Just overall, just trying to say, like, we need to stop letting in goals. We need to get into, I'm going to call it like it's like he sat down and was showing tape and got through all the glory years and then got to like the Benny Ball days. And like, this feels like 2011, 2012, like all over again, just kind of like.
He was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the screen when he saw the Benny Ball things. Like, I can do that.
Yeah,
we can do that.
We can do that. Just like suffocating games, kind of depending upon certain moments. And I call it is in a sense to me, it's like playing 50-50 soccer. It is keeping the game close, keeping the moments close, keeping everything kind of close to where you're only behind a goal or you're down a goal. And, you'll get sometimes it's going to break your way. There are going to be some moments where they're going to play a game like this. And one of these teams is going to uncork a goal and it's going to look silly. It could have happened in this game. Atlanta had a couple opportunities. DC had a couple opportunities. But I think literally this is all just about keeping your head above water, keeping our feet above water, keeping our head above water, keeping everything kind of stable. Maybe a signing comes in, you can kind of like maybe start to build the attack a little bit. It feels like very much just foundation building from Renée Wilder.
I wrote, if nothing else, philosophically, this is the good form of Benny Ball. You could ask questions about a team that spent $10 million on transfers being forced to play a style Olsen needed to play on a shoestring, but at least Renée is a realist and can see what's in front of him and isn't trying to, round peg, square hole this. So I am appreciative of that. It is dire for a neutral right now. Mm-hmm. Like they're not bringing but their Milkshake is not bringing anyone to the yard right now. This is not this is not going to do it. They're going to have to do some crazy drink specials because while we're I don't want to say happy. I want to pull back on that thread a little bit. I don't want to say we're happy. I want to say like I am satisfied with this team being realistic about where they are and saying for right now we're just going to get points where we can. Particularly on the road, particularly with our big signing being hurt for a couple of weeks that we haven't started anyway. But the idea about like ticket sales and having people come to these games that aren't already invested, they're going to have really good drink specials. They're going to have really, really good theme nights, all those things to get the casual out because it's not going to be for the highlights that they saw on Apple TV. That's for sure.
No, I mean it is. My sense is that this team is maybe starting to win, starting to push a little bit. I think people will come. I am of the believer that it doesn't matter how you win. I absolutely hate Pep Guardiola and, not everything he stands for, but sort of instilling this idea of like, oh, you have to play beautiful soccer to win games. You play soccer to win games. And I personally do not care. I had immense amounts of fun in 2012. I had immense amounts of fun in 2011. Even when this, during maybe some 2014, 2015, there were some moments in games. Yes, there were some boring moments, but they were out there winning. They were out there, putting on competitive performances and coming away with with potential wins in soccer games. And that's honestly winning. A winning formula is more fun, and a winning team is more fun. Again, you're right. Nothing like I'm not saying this. Oh, this is the style they want to play. I think even Renée Wilder's like, I don't want to play this for a whole year. I don't want to play this for.
This is why he had 2 years at a place. If he has to play like this for that long, he's going to go probably insane.
Yeah.
But I also think what he saw is this team losing 7-1, 7-0. Is like, this won't happen anymore. We're done with that. We will not be embarrassed. That is probably what he has told his players. Like, never again. No matter what, that's not going to happen. And I actually kind of believe that. I think that's probably true.
Yeah. They're going to be
a few injuries. This team is still always a couple injuries from structurally the wheels falling off, particularly at right back, the player that they have run every single minute of the season. I'm flagging that one as a one to watch.
Yeah. And I asked Renée about that. I was like, it's incredible. He's kind of like trusted this guy who has not played a single match. And he says he's just very smart about knowing when to run, how much to run. He's very smart about his timing. And you can see it. Hefti, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but I think he's very collected. He knows kind of where to push the boundaries, where to not. He's not going to be running himself to death. And he's going to be very composed and very controlled about how he moves. And I also asked about, we talk about a few injuries. Servania goes down, Peltola goes down, who's occupying that. Things could start to get even uglier for this team in that center of midfield because there is nobody. And I asked him about Markovic. I was like, do you play him at defensive midfielder? Is that a position you see him in the future? Or he's a center back? And he said, no, under no terms, he is a center back. But right now, the situation is the situation. So I asked him.
He is being a realist, practical guy right now, as opposed to any sort of real. And maybe that's a story about Jackson Hopkins out on the wing too. And we can have that. There's going to be questions about that to come. We're in somewhat survival mode, which is maybe not what you'd think we would be at the beginning of the season after you have a full transfer window to sort of put your mark. But we are where we are.
Renée seemed a little annoyed about the schedule being so road heavy right now. I think he talked about that in the press conference. He mentioned, he's like, we've been, he even sort of, it was almost like, it seemed like a little bit of a shot towards the whole Baltimore game because he considered that a road game. He's like, we had to travel for that game. Sure, it wasn't far, but, it wasn't, we've had one singular home game. But I will state he's weathered it extremely well. If you look at it, we can toss the Miami game. That was probably always going to be, a loss. And that was, I guess, the one home game. But, he's one win at home. Philly looking kind of dire. So that game has kind of shifted a little bit in the angle because Philly did not look so good. But you look at, you talk about what did they need out of this performance. I think if you had told him you're getting 4 points out of these, 2 road games, he would have absolutely taken it. And I think most fans would have taken it. It was a very fortunate road win in Chicago, and kind of like just a gutted out point, with, again, an opportunity where it could have been 6 points. It could have looked very different. So.
What if we broke Philadelphia Union's soul by beating them in week 1? What if that's why they are the way they are now?
I think it's a combination of Champions League and this is kind of how, or Champions Cup. And this is how they operate, as an organization. They hit the reset button, they kind of restart and, they kind of, figure out, they, bring in some players, offload some players. They have sort of an academy they can then kind of promote and move around. I think this could be like almost a rebuilding year from them. I think
with all their outgoings, that was certainly, I know when we talked to the Philly guy, that was my impression. Like that was a lot of quality out the door. Like I think they may have had such a long string of them being able to retool on the fly that they didn't think it could happen to them, but it appears to be happening to them.
I think they're pretty well. I mean, they've had like peaks and valleys like this. I would say before bringing on, before they got rid of Curtin and brought him on, they had sort of a year where they did this. They had a lot of players, Hugo Kuipers, they got rid of, they have this sort of cycle where they kind of like cycle through these players. And then they kind of retool, they build up. They believe very much in their academy, and they don't count out like maybe a Kevin Sullivan coming in and maybe really turning his team around. He seems like
he did look good. He did look good in a limited appearance at the Champions League. Everyone that focused and wrote about that was like the team was cruising for 65 minutes, and they took him off, and then the team fell apart almost instantly. Yeah. So maybe hindsight 2020, but yeah. So I'm happy that they're not. I'm happy that they're Finally. Good.
Well, we got another question from Timothy Parks. Says, what did you guys think of Gavin Turner's debut? I know it was limited minutes. I don't think we saw too much from him. It was interesting he was out there. I was not. I still have the notification like turned on my football for Gavin Turner because I was trying to follow him. So it came on. I was like, oh shoot, he's in the match. And I was like, turned to look away, and I was like, I didn't even like put two and two together.
And he was playing and he was a second forward too.
Yeah.
So he was in the sort of the Pirani position. I didn't see too much out of him. I need to see a longer run. My plan, honestly, was to go back and watch the last 15 minutes and just key in on him. But from the live view, I didn't see anything that was, but also what were we expecting? It would be very bizarre if all of a sudden he came on and made a huge difference in that game where it was in its position.
If that Servania goal goes in, he gets the assist from the corner kick. He takes the corner kick off of that. So I don't know. We'll see some more. I think it's interesting he was out there. I do think, with the attack, I think there are some moments, there are some opportunities. I think Pirani had maybe a little bit of a better performance, but still, again, just kind of. I
thought he was pretty dour again. He did not have a situation in which he had a 1 XG chance that he decided not to take. So I guess that's an improvement. I have on here that Pirani, Ty, and Peglow do not look like a coherent group and are not coordinating their press successfully. And in fact, they seem to be yelling at each other most of the time. They seem to be in constant sort of disagreement about the press and when to go and when not to go. It has never been better for me. It has not. The best I saw was the Philly game, the one that you and I were in attendance. And I think I may have some recency bias / in-person bias because you get to see sort of the off the camera view about how the whole team is moving, like the all 22 view, like to use the NFL term. But I think that Pirani continues to be a problem. But as another person asked a question too, and I want to pull that one up because it's relevant about Peglow. I can't find it right now, but basically, and I'll give you credit when I get to it. But basically, the idea was, here we go. Brandon Z. Lots of focus on Pirani not living up to expectations, but can we say the same for Peglow? I feel like he's been giving possession away too cheaply lately. I thought he was very poor in this game. From the beginning of this year, we have said like the way that this team, prior to the 2 big transfers in, an $1.5 million transfer or $1.5 million player coming in a position of offense had to be a contributor. And last year, through injury and through uneven form, he never really was able to do that more than a couple games in a row. This is a position that needs to be strengthened. I believe this is not something that you should look at this and say, I think he'll probably just come good and needs a little bit more time. I think that when you're looking at why this offense is so clunky, it is there and it is on the right wing. If Jackson Hopkins is ideal there, if Caden Clark should be there, or if some other player should be there, and then Pirani. It's three across the front, which is unfortunate because that's a large portion of your lineup.
Yeah.
But Baribo is not the problem. He is a high motor guy. He is kind of a pest. He is kind of playing to get underneath the skin of the other team, which is good. A little pescadito action potentially. I worry sometimes, and I don't know him good enough yet. I feel like he's also a player that can be sort of bullied out of the game. Like he can be distracted somewhat by physical play where they're starting to kick him after he does who was the guy who rolled around in the World Cup? Why can't I remember which
Neymar?
Neymar. He does a little bit of the Neymar action when he gets hit in the ankle. He does that every game pretty much. And I think as that game goes on, players start to get more annoyed by that and kick him more. And I've seen him sort of get get really upset about it. So I'll watch that. I think he is frustrated at his lack of service. He is frustrated at his lack of opportunities to convert. But really, it's coming from those 3 players that I said, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Baribo is getting frustrated. You can tell in the games. He is like, players are not finding him where he needs to be. He's not getting opportunities. He's getting very, very limited chances. If you really think about it, he's had, maybe one good opportunity, non-PK opportunity, and that was against Philly. It's been a rough goings. You can still see what he brings to the team and sort of the movement he brings. I agree about Peglow. I was maybe a little high on him this year, seeing what he could do. He has very much not lived up, I guess, to expectations. I would say, other than getting the assist, other than maybe some of the pressing that you spoke about, not really been a strong performance from him. I think those are positions. It's very curious to me. The obvious problem is the attack. Is it a sense of, he's not trying to rock the boat? There's no reason to at this point. does it, but would you, do you expect, a Caden Clark to maybe make a starting appearance and get a look and get an opportunity? Obviously, we know like Luis is waiting out in the wing. He once he's healthy, he's going to get a starting opportunity. Yep. We got an update. We got an update from Renee on both Herrera and Luis. Herrera will be back by the end of the international break. Same with Luis, he will be back.
Great.
So the injuries are not expected to be long term, which is good. So look to see what happens in Dallas. I don't think we'll see Luis start. I think we'll see him come off the bench. I think same with Herrera, but some things to look out for to start the week. So
don't trust the Romanian sources on Twitter that are saying a serious lower body injury out for a long time.
Yeah. Might have been some translation issues. Yeah, Renee kind of laughed at the sort of the media rumors and everything.
Sorry, Renee, we're all just checking Twitter. There's not a lot of primary options to look at.
I realized too, like I'm on the press conferences, and like that was always like Stephen Goff's like first question was like asking about the injuries, and no one else does it. And so I have joined those press conferences. Usually, I've decided to make an
Steve
effort
Goff question
to join on Thursday to say, hey, how the injuries? What's the injury status? Are we expecting players to come back? I am curious, like about, no one's asked about Karamoko. I'd be curious. And I did not ask it on the press conference, but like, what is going on there? He's listed as illness and out. What is the illness exactly? Do we even know what the illness is?
It's a HIPAA violation to tell you. He's got suckitis. He's not good enough.
Let's hold it in case it actually is something.
Sure,
like
you're right. You're right. Delete that part.
Yeah.
So the other, before we sort of close on this, I feel like the Caden Clark and Kijima substitutes were immediately, I think it was stark how much better we got on the wings all of a sudden. Kijima looked I would say, most forward focused and attacking and dangerous that since he's probably for his first couple games with the club, which is where people were thought. And then he got forced to be in a more of an 8 role. And I think lost a bit of his shine in that because that really wasn't where he was succeeding. I think Caden Clark obviously almost scores in the 70. Where's the minute? Like around the 78th minute. Hits the post. He looked great. The big conversation piece was Dax McCarty went on this big long thing about Jackson Hopkins is an 8. He's wasted on the wing. He does not need to be out there. He is much more talent. He's much better when he has more space in the midfield to play and to play in someone else or take his own opportunity as opposed to trying to do with any defensive responsibilities on the wing. And I think Caden Clark showed that I'm here and I can do this over here. This may be my best position. And I think if you're also looking at the Pirani situation where this is a player that has not produced real results here through the first couple games, first 5 games. Could Hopkins play in the second forward role? We've seen him play there before. What do you think about the sort of the dialogue that's going on around Caden Clark / Hopkins on the right side?
I think this is the first game where I think you saw Caden Clark this season. I will say there's been moments in other games where we've seen him kind of show up. I think this is the first game where it's like, okay, there was an actual like change of pace here in the attack. There was an actual, it felt like this team might actually like steal a win here. Before it was just like, they're just trying to just like, make the game ugly and muck it up and try to like stay, keep Atlanta's attack. Like the second half, they got, I would say, the better of the chances, better of the opportunities. Like literally Atlanta just completely ran out of steam. They had maybe looked lively for the first few minutes, and then when it wasn't coming, they were very lucky, honestly, to escape with a 0-0 draw. I think it would be interesting. I think in the center of midfield, he would get on the ball a little bit more. I think he has struggled. He looks good when he's like, when a player kind of is able to sort of show him up and kind of try to close down the space. He's able to show kind of his elite dribbling ability. He almost had a goal. He had a goal from sort of the outside of the box where he took a shot really nicely. Yep. Again, and it's also a question, I say, well, I do worry, he would have to sort of be a provider. And then what happens when Luis comes back? Luis takes that role from him. Do you shift him back? I would be maybe curious, again, it's tough with like the Servania role, but I would be curious to see if he could slot in as kind of that right next to Peltola, kind of be able to maybe push the game, push the envelope, push a little bit forward on that front from the center of midfield. And he has played at kind of a center midfield, defensive midfield position in the past, but I don't know.
I'd rather he and Clark split the minutes than try to horn him out of the field where maybe we're not getting like it's.
I think it's
clearly
worth
not his best.
I think it is worth trying him, keeping him out right, trying Clark out left, giving Peglow a rest. And then, obviously with Pirani, I think unfortunately Pirani stays there by default because, we've seen Peglow play up top. He can't do it. Maybe you would. Honestly, maybe you would. Maybe you would. Who do I want to see benched more? I probably want to see Pirani benched more. I would say those two roles, between Pirani and Peglow, just waiting for somebody else to kind of step up at this point, and sort of take that role. So I don't know. Maybe he was kind of waiting for this week. It will be kind of an off season. It will be kind of an extra week. Maybe he gets an extra couple weeks in training to kind of work on some new ideas, some new sort of formations, maybe work on trying to pair up and maybe build sort of a different look in the attack that might work, because so far as that, it hasn't really been working. So
my overall impressions from this were, and sort of where we are at the moment, is 7 points from 5 games with an inert and ineffective offense is probably an achievement. It makes for awful soccer to watch, but so does being the worst team in the league. Peglow needs to take a seat, and Hopkins should be inside. More minutes for Clark and possibly more for Kijima. And disciplined defense, especially in transition, and Atlanta look lost for the amount of money they spent and the theoretical attacking talent that they have. So I think we talk about this always. This is like always a question we ask us, and I think we have to ask this because of where we usually are in the standings, is who would you rather be? Would you rather be Atlanta or DC United? And we usually say Atlanta because money can bail you out of many, many things and problems in life. But Atlanta could play this way if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Atlanta, but they choose not to, and they choose to, fail generally. If we, I'd maybe want to be us because I think we're a couple players away from being able to play 2 styles, and each of them are point generating styles.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would say, if I had to put my head to it, I would still say Atlanta, because I would say their path to turning themselves around could be quicker than us. I think they have suffered from just kind of some poor decisions in poor direction. Mostly you look at their coaching staff, their signings, they've spent big on signings and haven't really worked out. They really, but they have the money to spend those types of things, and they have the ability to be a successful team. I think Garth Lagerwey was kind of brought in to do that. And then unfortunately, Garth Lagerwey suffered from some very serious health issues and had to kind of pull himself back. So, I don't know. It's right now, would I rather be DC? Yeah, because, both all the players, all the DPs right now, Marunchuk, Locte Lock, and, why can I fit the other one? Miggy Amarone. All those players are locked in for this year. All those players, their value has cratered. Every single one of them.
Amarone at least does some cool stuff occasionally.
What's that?
Said Amarone at least does some cool stuff occasionally. He had a nice run that was pretty sweet. But other than that, I hear you.
Yeah, but again, he's 32, and he is one of those players, I think, where as a younger player, I think his speed and quickness, like, you can see the skill level is still there, but he's one of those players. I feel like there's certain players that, like, they're good when they're young because they're able to be quick and fast, and they're able to sort of make the plays. And, once they get older, it's like the wheels start to kind of come off. They're not able to be as fast, and they're able to be predictable, and they don't adjust. They don't, they play. Miggy Amarone is the same player he was when he was 24 and 25. He's just older and a little slower, and that doesn't, hold up. You look at the reason Messi is if Messi tried to play current Messi tried to play like 24-year-old Messi, he would struggle immensely. He can't do the things that he does, but he's such an intelligent player. He was able to develop sort of a new style of how to play and sort of adapt his game to be better. It's similar to what Jaime Moreno did. If we're going DC, he was a very quick, pacey kind of forward, a great forward, and then he slowed down and he said, I need to adjust my game. I need to be smarter. And that's why he was able to have that sort of renaissance from 04 to 07, because he changed how he played. He became more of a second forward. He didn't become kind of the primary scorer. So that's usually the testament of a good player. And it's why when people talk about Marco Echeverri and Jaime Moreno, I say Moreno. Like, he turned himself into a completely different player and became very effective.
And both of them were good.
Yeah, that was a Patreon. That should have been a Patreon part of the show.
Should. But here's what we're going to do. Instead of that, I'm realizing how long the show has gone. I want to talk about the Spirit game. We're going to put all the answers to all of the questions on the Patreon thing. Otherwise, this is going to be a 2.5 hour show.
Did we get through at least I do want to get through the free questions. Make sure that
there are too many. There are like a million. You guys asked so many dang questions.
Fair enough.
Here's one. Purdy Fish says, did we learn anything about either team during this game? Feels like we still don't know if Atlanta or DC are going to get it together this season. I think that's sort of what we just kind of talked through. I think we learned that DC United is playing a very realist style of soccer right now, and that isn't what he wants to do, but it is what he must do, and so it's what he will do. And he's doing it and getting 7 points from 5 games from some challenging opponents on the road.
Bear Witness says, do you expect us to bunker against FC Dallas? I would say, yeah.
I watched some of that game against Houston. I think that might be a good strategy.
Yeah. I don't expect the style to change all that much, for sure. So,
all the rest of your questions will be will be behind the paywall. So, if you asked one you really want to know about, that's where you can find it. Washington Spirit, a 2-2 draw against a team that this team, obviously Racing Louisville, NWSL is weird. It's small. The playoffs are large. Any team can make a run. This is a team that made it to, was it the semis last year that we eliminated them from? It was in the playoffs. We beat them. I still think when I look at this roster and looked at the starting lineups, to me, it looks like the Spirit should win in a boat race. Just looking at the attacking talent, the defensive talent that the Spirit are able to marshal. Obviously, the Racing has some good players as well, but I look at that lineup and I don't see a lot of let up from most of the whole way. So a bit of a disappointing start to the game, certainly. What we talked about this briefly already before, is that in the opening game against Portland, the team could not get it together in the final third. They looked really, really ineffective. They looked like they were missing something or someone. Craig Bethune potentially is that person. Who knows? That's a eye of the beholder situation. But they just were not connecting in the way that they should have. In this game, I think that the connection was there. I think that they had found their passing triangles. They had found their movement down the wing. They had found the ability to open up some space and get a shot off from, even if it's outside the 18, if that's what Louisville were presenting them with. Still, the finishing was not clinical. Broadman just scored in the 6th minute. Hussey gave her an opportunity right in the 6th, and she shot it right to the keeper and then couldn't bury the rebound. Kawasi had a half-field breakaway.
Yeah, that should have been a goal.
In the 8th minute, stole the ball right off of Peterson, who was standing there as a center back, just looking like she was hitchhiking. Had an opportunity right on goal, and the announcer said, she should have gotten an angle. She ran directly at the keeper and then had nowhere to shoot, which shouldn't be a problem when you have the whole half of the field to yourself, but she's one-footed, so. And
this is, I feel like, a criticism of Kawasi that we've had. It's like the final third. It's like she does everything right. And this was a problem last year, and she improved upon it. I felt like throughout the season. So maybe this is something that just takes some getting used to, but so good. And she had 2 assists in this game. So you can't even really. She was
very dangerous. She was very, very dangerous. It's just that it's like the 80% of the player she could be is the player she is. And not having any left foot is part of this. And then her lack of being a clinical finisher. She would be in the MVP conversation. Right now, she's able to use her intelligence and her speed to get open down that channel and provide opportunities for other players. So that ain't nothing. That's certainly to be valued. I just think that it will never not frustrate me to have her not be the full player that hopefully, that we see could be. And then things got bad for the Spirit. Kayla Fisher scores outside the box on a ball that McIver 100% should have had. Yeah. I think, there could be an argument that Tara screened her and she didn't have a great sight on it, but the ball was right at her. It snuck under her arm. She's got to get in front of that, regardless. Whether or not she saw it or not, she's got to make that stop.
Simply B1 says, how are we feeling about Spirit's Kingsbury replacement? I don't know. It's tough, bad game. I think, you look at the XG 0.86 XG and she gave up 2 goals. That's never
not great.
Never a good moment, that you want to do. That goal was pretty bad. She gets kind of hung out to dry on the second one. I think we are seeing, maybe a little bit of a miss of Kingsbury. I would also say, she did not play all year. She sat on the bench all year. So maybe there's, some minutes need to be, maybe there's a little bit of pain that needs to be, endured while she kind of finds her feet. She is apparently a very talented goalkeeper, starts for a national team. It's pretty clear, when she was signed, I think we were all kind of like, what? Why we got Kingsbury? Why do we need her? I think it seems to me like Kingsbury let the team know that this was her plan, this year, and then next year, she wants to start a family. And so they're like, okay, we'll get a keeper that can, essentially start and we can be competitive because
they should have gave her more time last year. Then if that was cooking, they should have figured out a way to spread the wealth a little bit more. But I think it's really a matter of how does she bounce back?
I'll disagree. I'll disagree with you there. You were a team trying to vie for a championship. You vie for that chance. You deal like this is all stuff that if you trust your scouting, if you trust everything else, this stuff will work its way out by March or April. We'll see. And then maybe you look elsewhere, but I don't think you then try to say, well, if you're going to do that, we're going to punish you by not having you play. I don't think you can do that. I vehemently disagree with you there. I think you play. Kingsbury was the starter. Kingsbury was everything. I think you respect that. And again, I have no basis of info, but just based on the signing, it seemed to me like the team was maybe thinking about next year they might not have Kingsbury for this reasons. Anyway, pure speculation on my part. Could be completely wrong on that front, but the signing itself was a little confusing to burn an international slot on a backup keeper. I think it's making a little more sense right now.
I think you could have probably waited. She wasn't even playing for Everton in that year. She may not have even seen the field last year at her club team in England. So we don't know if this is a problem yet. We just get to see how she bounces back next game. This team is going to win on the basis of its attack anyway. I think in general. So she should have more of a cushion than she's had lately as we go forward. Santos has a shot saved off the post in the 31st minute. Esme Morgan, again, I mentioned her last week. Great stuff there. She has definitely turned into the player that she said she wanted to be when she rode. I spoke to her. She's like, I want to be the best player, best defender in the world. And she's working, and she's getting that way. She's heading in that direction for sure. I love watching Di Guglielmo play. I think she is the Hosei Hefti. She is the Hefti of this team, except for I think way better. She is a tremendous addition. I think once the finishing is all the way there, the service that she's going to be able to provide is going to be crazy. She's going to have, I don't know about double digits assists, but it's going to be substantial. She is in the mix all the time, and she's also a great defender. I'm a big fan. I don't know if you could tell. Cantore has a half chance in the 38th minute. Really, I was not impressed with Louisville's defense. Obviously, they were sort of a low block, but it was non-aggressive. They were giving the Spirit opportunities like over and over again. They had space to create every single time, and they'd either hit the post, which happened quite a bit, or scuff the shot, or just not have the angle she wants. And then right after that chance, Emma Sears goes coast to coast after a collision in her own box. Transition defending just sort of looks completely out of sorts. That was not prepared for. That can happen when you're that far down the field. Then Tara Rudd does not do anyone any favors, does not force Sears either way, lets her run straight in on goal, and Sandy does not go above and beyond there and make the save and bail her team out. And then it's 2-0, and it's a bit of a concern again for a team that in a game you did not expect to go down 2-0 to this team.
Yeah.
Cantore again was really, really active. I was a question this week if Gift Monday had a bit of an uneven start last week. Would Cantore get in a start from the beginning? She did. I also think with a game midweek here against the Utah Royals, there was a bit of rotation. Trinity also came off later with a concussion sub. Unclear. They have the media availability tomorrow, I think. So I would imagine they're going to hold her out against Utah. They probably think that they can, her long-term health is more important here, but also that they could get points against Utah. I think is what they're going to think. But the Cantore goal we could talk about in the 50th minute. Just a goal from distance, probably 25 yards from goal off of a corner. Mm-hmm. Right footer bending away from the keeper. Somebody asked her after the game, why are all of your goals like this? And she seemed like she was seriously like, I would like them not to be. I'm trying very hard to just score a regular goal. I would like to score a regular goal.
I'd like to be a boring goal. Score a boring goal.
Yeah, that would be. I would be okay with that. So that was awesome. Santos had another opportunity. Kawasi was again the creator all over the place. Sort of scuffed it right away. Tara, I thought it was interesting that Tara was deployed as sort of a free roaming forward around the 50th minute. She was just in the box, like for a 5-minute period. She wasn't even going back. They were just like, "You're good. Stay up there. Don't worry about it. Stay up there. You know what you're doing up there."
I mean, that's why you sign like Bernal. You got Bernal, who plays as center back and now being played as sort of a defensive midfielder type role.
I do not think that is her. I don't think that's her best position. Bernal's. I had wrote down here like she had like right before she had played a square ball to the left back with no cover, and the player had a straight opportunity. She tried to steal it and then lost the dribble, but had an opportunity to run in on goal. And I was saying like, boy, there was quite a few of those. And then as soon as she did that, she pinged a 50-yard ball to the right wing and hits her in stride. I was like, okay, well, but still overall, I still think my initial analysis says that Bernal is a better center back than defensive midfielder. And the fact that Andy Sullivan is back, made her appearance in the 90th minute is great. I think that gives you an opportunity to sort of rotate there. Al Hirschfeld has not looked her original self so far this season, and I would say for much of last season. Her best time ever at the Spirit was the first half season when she was with Andy Sullivan. So, and also maybe before there was any sort of book on what kind of a player she was and what she wanted to do. I will be interested to see if they're able to make that pairing stick for a while and see, what do you get out of Hal from that? I think that'll be important. Mention the Trinity substitute. I think that's going to be important. I think I think this team is in a position where they are really close to getting it. They're really close to getting it. The season, I'm not concerned.
This was definitely a game where it was kind of like I only was able to watch the game afterwards, but I saw the score and I was like, oh man, do we like completely miss on the season? And then I sat down and watched the game. I said, oh no, we didn't miss. Like they just, couldn't finish. This game could have so easily been like 2-0, 3-0 heading into that second half, like with the amount of chances that the Spirit generated. So I'm just like, okay, like the soccer is there, the chances are there, the moments are there. It's just gonna, it's gonna take a little bit of time to kind of pull it all together. They're not a team maybe that's gonna hit the ground running. And I think, yes, maybe do we want them maybe to be trying to compete with like the top of the league and maybe competing for that supporter shield? Sure. But I think we also want to see them make a run. Getting second is okay too. And that gets you into the playoffs. So right now they are third from bottom, but I would not expect them to be there. And I think the whole league knows that they have the talent to be a serious contender. I think there was maybe some questions about the missing of Cory Bethune. I will miss Cory Bethune personally. I thought she was like a very fun player to watch. She was like one of those players that, you would watch a game and you would leave. But I think with this game, I learned, okay, Santos can do it. Rodman can do it. Kouassi can especially do it. Like there's talent in this team. It might not be, some of the stuff that we saw from Bethune that was so attractive and so fun to watch from just a pure like eyeball standpoint, but it still can be fun soccer for this team to play.
But we didn't lose to Chicago like some other people did. I don't know that the grass is greener playing for Chris Armas in Kansas City. That's all I'll say.
That is an ultimate question for sure.
I was watching a bit of that Chicago game, and I didn't realize where they play some other games, and they play up at Loyola, and they play right on the lake. And the wind was blowing so hard it looked like they were playing in front of the Pacific Ocean, like during high tide, just huge white waves. And then they lost. And I think that, boy, I don't want to second guess any front office decision making at any clubs, but Chris Armas has a track record for a reason. And you got to pay attention to it.
You're well within your right to question Chris Armas and in him being there in Kansas City. This is a guy.
He's got to prove us wrong. He's got to prove us wrong.
Yeah, man. I mean, just the amount of moments. I mean, I guess Colorado wasn't a terrible outing for him, but he's just had some very uninspiring moments, and yet he keeps getting jobs. And I think it's like you look at Dabinia, Bethune, all those players that are out there for that Kansas City team that should be really, really good. And then to just have the, to have him in charge feels very, very puzzling, to say the least. And Chawinga as well. My goodness, like the talent that is on that roster, kind of shocking to be honest.
Captain First says, "How are you guys feeling about the Spirit so far? I think we've been lacking offensively, but I don't know if the newcomers are still adjusting or if Croy has left a bigger hole than we thought. Hoping it's the former." We talked about this from the week one. I think this is still a hangover from the late international break. And now they have another one, I believe, coming up soon. it's just getting comfortable with each other. They're like so close. It's margins from clicking all the way into the attack position.
If you still feel that, really go watch the game. Go watch the game against Louisville. They were the better side. In my opinion, the goals they gave up there were things you can fix, and attack wise, it's just, they're going to get there. They were able to sort of gut out the draw. I think once they got that first goal, I thought, okay, I think they'll find a way back into this, whether it's a win, whether it's just a point. I think they'll find a way back into this.
Roscoe says, what is going on with Hal Hirschfeld? She does not look the same, Hal, albeit 2 games in. I agree. I think it's, like I was saying before, I think it's about partners and sort of what's being asked out of her. So we'll see how this looks once Andy gets. I'm wondering when she gets her first. This is obviously just dipping her toes in. I'm wondering when they're going to jump all the way in. I'm curious about it.
Maybe you got a Wednesday, Saturday. You got an opportunity maybe to slot her in there. We'll see.
I'm trying to bring up a list of Washington Spirit roster moves here in the offseason, because the question was, what player had the biggest effect on the Spirit, the ones that left or came in?
Kingsbury.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess if you count that, yeah. I think like permanently. If it's permanently, it's probably Croy, because permanently, Courtney Brown, Brittany Ratcliffe, Croy Bethune, Narumi Miura, Chloe Ricketts, Ule Sar, Heather Stainbrook on loan. Yeah, it's obvious. I think it has to be. If McKenna Morris also left, we thought that we were going to get an opportunity to see her, but she was injured this week. It's probably Croy Bethune. I think that's probably just based on the quality that came out. But the replacements are Claudia Martinez, the young Paraguayan, has gotten opportunities in each game, which again makes me look like an idiot, since I was reading in the tea leaves thinking that she was not going to play at all. She's got really. I haven't got much to see except for her off the ball movement. I like watching that. I think she's got. It's a very I would say like it's a very Central American style. Like it's like not just because of where she's from, but like you can see sort of like the run she's making, that she doesn't run full steam into a run. She's sort of giving herself some optionality as the way she moves through, tries to run past defenders. I like seeing that. I don't know what the end product is, but yeah, I would say that's probably the easy answer, right? It's Croy.
Yeah, Croy, Croy and Croy really didn't play all that much. I think it's going to be a question of, like you said, is Claudia Martinez, young player, is she able to become an effective contributor and maybe challenge for some spots where she can be a big time player? I'm still going to stick with my answer of Aubrey Kingsbury. I think that's, she's out for the season. She's not coming back.
That's true.
That's been the obvious kind of step down. Now she'll be back eventually. But everywhere else in the lineup, it's like, you feel like there's just so much talent. Like maybe they're not as deep. Like, Croy Bethune was like a weapon where you could have like a change of pace. I think it'll be interesting to watch. I do think it was very crowded between Bethune and Santos, as to who really drove the offense. And I think that's where you saw Bethune kind of drop off once Santos got here, and they tried to sort of pair them together, and it really didn't work. So I'll be curious to watch how Santos performs, versus Bethune in that kind of role. So
I'm interested in what this lineup looks like against Utah this week. I think maybe you're going to see some rotation. Like Abby Oden probably will come in and play defensive midfield for Hal, give her a blow. She looked like she was a little tired at the end of the game.
Yep.
And maybe Andy gets another 45 minutes in there. Maybe, who knows? But I think that's going to do it for the public show. We've got still a bunch of questions to get to that Ted and I will run through here to give the people a little bit more of that. And other than that, I think we'll have lots to talk. We'll have less to talk about next week. We'll have Spirit, and there's no DC United game for 2 weeks, so it'll be probably a short. Knock on wood, maybe a shorter show. I don't know if that's something you want. I don't know. Is it good news, bad news? Hard to say.
Yeah, well, maybe have some preview content. Who knows? Preview content always works, and maybe we'll actually dive a little more into that. I should be, after this weekend, be a little more free and have a little more time to figure stuff out. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it for the free show. Again, if you're on Patreon, stick around. Otherwise, free show. We will, if you want to continue being free, we appreciate the support as always, and we'll catch you next week. Vamos.